recording. Okay, now I will start the share screen. China today. Okay, today we are talking about BRICS, being Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America, Africa. These are the BRICS countries. Of course, the largest landmass is Russia, and then is China. China has the second largest landmark among the BRICS country, and then India here, South Africa here, and Brazil in the South America. It represents about 30% of the world's land surface, 29.5, and about 40% of the world population. We have the two largest populated countries in the world, India and China. India just surpassed China to become the country with the most population, I think earlier this year. So that represents about 3.2 billion people there. In terms of global GDP, the BRICS countries have been improving quite quicker than the developed countries. In 2001, excluding South Africa, it represents about 8% of the world's GDP. But when it comes to 2022, it represents 26% of the world GDP. The per capita income, Russia represents the highest, is 15,000 US dollars per person. China coming as a second, and then Brazil, South Africa. India is way off there. It's only about 2,000. So India is a very interesting country in that sense because India has the most population at the moment and is also the lowest in terms of GDP per capita. Okay, a little bit of history. BRICS is a acronym, of course, taking with the first letter from the English name of the 5 countries. Initially, it was only 4, and then later on, South Africa is included. So it is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. In 2001, it was coined by a Goldman Sachs economist, Jim O'Neill, in a paper titled Building Better Global Economics, BRICS. He identified these 4 countries as emerging economies with the potential for significant global influence. It turned out to be correct. So in 2009, the first summit was held in Russia. These 4 leaders come together and discuss ways to enhance their cooperation and address common challenges. 2010, they invited South Africa to join, and so BRIC become BRICS. South Africa's inclusion expanded the geographic representation of the group, adding a country from the African continent. The first BRICS summit with Africa took place in 2011. From then onwards, BRICS holds annual meetings, annual summits, where leaders of the member countries will meet and discuss a wide range of issues, mostly economics, politics, security, and global governance. Now, notice that it is not an alliance, so there is no treaty in a sort of say, if a country is being invaded, that all other countries will have to help No, this is not an alliance. It is only a cooperation. This summit provides a platform for dialogue and cooperation among the 5 nations. Later on, they really put these ideas into action. So economically, they cooperate to establish a new development bank, NDB, also known as the BRICS Bank. And they also, within this NDB, there is a contingent reserve arrangement in which these 5 countries lump together a significant amount of their foreign reserve to form a pool in order to protect the stability of the currency of the 5 countries. In terms of politics and security, BRICS' primary purpose is economic. But of course, with economy, you have to also address political and security issues. They also encourage cultural and academic exchanges. There are, of course, challenges and differences. Despite their shared objectives, BRICS countries have diverse economic and political systems, which sometimes lead to differences in approach and priority. Now, from the political structure, China has its own political establishment, being a one-party state. The Chinese political system is based on a primary election at the lowest level. And then from that onwards, it's all indirect elections. The lowest so-called village CPC, Village Chinese Communist Party of Communist Party of China, CPC. The lowest level may be a village, and in that village, the threshold to participate is very low. Basically, you have about 5 nominees, then you can stand for a office, and it is a direct election by that village, maybe 100 people, 200 people, maybe 300 people, etc. So they elect their village representative in that sense. But the next level up, for example, from village into county, then the county officials are elected from the village representatives. So all these villagers get together and say, okay, who want to stand for office in the next level up, then you can nominate and then indirectly voted by the village representatives to go on to the next level, into the county level. And similarly, the county officials will be able to get elected into the next level up, for example, the province level. And from the province level, you get to go to the next level up into the national member of the National Congress, etc., etc. This is one way up. And there's also other so-called groups, for example, minor ethnic groups, then they will have representative directly in the National Congress. So there are other channels similar to what I have described for the most area in China. All these people get to the top slowly. Usually, they have an election every 5 years. So if you want to go from the lowest level to the highest level, it will take about 25 years and so on. That is the political system in China. India has the largest political party in the world, and they have a common election electing their president. Similarly for Russia and the other countries. So in terms of political system, there are diversities. Now, in terms of economics, we also see huge diversities. India is a very much emerging economics from agriculture to service industry. India is very much focused on high-end service industry. For example, we know that in Australia here, a lot of call centers is actually routed to either Bangladesh or India, where their workers take our call and then perform whatever necessary. So India is in that sense not exactly an industrial powerhouse. It is a so-called all-rounded economy. Whereas we know that Brazil is a very much a agricultural heavyweight in terms of corn, soybeans, and sugar canes, etc. Russia is also a huge resource-rich country, typically oil, gas, a lot of resources like aluminum, etc., etc. Also, Russia is the second largest nuclear power after United States. The number of nuclear warheads between United States and Russia will represent about 90% of the world's all nuclear warheads. And America and Russia have about the same number of nuclear warheads. So in terms of military, Russia is another level, is a totally different level from the other BRICS countries. And it is also resource rich, very different from, for example, China. China, we know that it is the world's manufacturing hub. China is the largest trading partner with most countries in the world. It produces a large number of commodities, goods, etc. So these countries is very diverse, and they have very different political agendas as well as socio-economic backgrounds. So getting this group of people, countries to cooperate, I think is quite a challenge. And by this year, 2023, BRICS accepted another group of countries into its organization. So it is now known as BRICS Plus. BRICS Plus, okay. The sixth country being added is Saudi Arabia, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Argentina, Iran, and Ethiopia. Here is the map of these countries in a slightly different color, the orange color. So the new BRICS Plus is interesting in a sense that it enlarged the representation of BRIC. For example, previously, Middle East is not represented with the BRICS countries. Now we have 3 Middle East countries included: Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Iran. They are Muslim countries. Now, in terms of belief, Brazil is very much a Catholic country. Russia is the what's the Orthodox Christian. India is, of course, Hinduism. China is almost, you can say, is a non religious country, is atheist country at least. And South Africa, I don't remember. I believe it will be charity. whereas now added the 3 Muslim countries into it, or maybe 4. Egypt is also Muslim. Ethiopia is also Muslim. So suddenly 5 Muslim countries added into the BRICS mix. Argentina, I think, is Catholic. So in terms of religion, it has now a broader representation. That in terms of resources, Saudi Arabia and Russia together represent a significant amount of the oil reserve in the world. Of course, we know that America at the moment is also a large oil exporter. But anyway, Russia and Saudi have a very strong ability to control the price of oil through OPEC and OPEC Plus. Now, Russia do not belong to OPEC, but belongs to OPEC Plus, because OPEC, again, the oil-producing countries, has expanded to include a few countries into the OPEC Plus. And Russia represents a huge ability or potential to control worldwide oil price. Now, together with Saudi Arabia in the BRICS Plus, the control of global oil price is very much in the hand of the BRICS Plus countries. In terms of resources, don't forget, Iran is also an oil-rich country. And EUA is also an oil-rich country. Argentina is again a significant agricultural countries complementing with Brazil. You look at the map there. Brazil is very much easier to ship its goods to Europe rather than to China, for example, because it will have to go either around the tip of the South America or through the Panama Canal and then pass through the Pacific Ocean. Whereas Argentina is on the side of the Pacific Ocean. So cooperation between that has a lot of potential. This expansion, it expanded, I think I have the information much, the GDP is now expanded to 29%. Look at the new part, the green part is not very significant in terms of GDP, because the new countries are either small or not very rich. But in terms of population, we added some population to it. It now represents 46%. So remember, it was 40 and now it's 46%. It's quite significant. But the most significant part is actually oil production. With Russia, Saudi Arabia, and Iran added to it, then its oil production represents 43% of the world's global production. Finally, the export of goods, with the new added, then you will represent some much higher adding abilities, represent 25%. And in terms of global GDP, the BRICS has already overtaken a G7. This is BRICS, not BRICS Plus. So it overcome at around 2021, around this time, where the BRICS countries' GDP overtake the GDP of G7. G7's GDP has been declining, whereas the GDP of the BRICS country has been rising. They are almost complementary because most of the growth in the world's growth is in the developing country, especially represented by China. Remember, until recently, China's annual global GDP growth 2 digits, 10%, something like that. Lately, when it dropped to about 5%, everybody say, "Oh, China is in big trouble. It's only 5%." But remember, the average GDP growth of the developed country is sitting at about 1 to 3%. And this year, we are looking at around 1% for the developed countries, with Germany contracting rather than expanding. So that represents the change in fortune of the developing countries. The role of China in BRICS Plus. This picture comes from a gentleman called Robert Goodfield. The blue part represents USA, and the red part represents China. But it is a GDP in PPP. That means purchasing power equivalent. So China GDP in terms of PPP overtakes the United States in April 2014. April 2014, when China's GDP in terms of purchasing power is the same as United States, and then China just take off. China has a huge influence in BRICS countries. First of all, is as a founding member. It is the most populous country at that time, and it is economy, its GDP economics is also largest among all the BRICS members. China has the largest economy among them. So together with what we talked about last week, the Belt and Road Initiative, China formed 2 banks. One bank is, of course, the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB. Almost at the same time, China also formed the New Development Bank together with the BRICS country at that time. So, Belt and Road Initiative, trade investment, China is the major trading partner for almost all the BRICS countries, and actually is the largest trading partners with almost everybody else in the world. Political influence, Chinese political influence is substantial. It has been involved in shaping the group's collective stance on global issues such as climate change, global governance reform, international security, etc., etc. And its foreign policy is quite independent and does not align exactly with the other BRICS countries. Culturally and academically, China is also actively participating. At the moment, one of the BRICS country represent 2 seats in the United Nations Security Council, which have veto powers, Russia and China. And of course, we know that India is trying to become a permanent member of the Security Council, but I think it won't come anytime soon. In terms of technology and innovation, recently China has surpassed everybody else to become the largest scientific paper producer in the world. And in terms of patent registration, China also has surpassed the rest of the world to become the #1 patent registration in the world. just like domestically, China is a multicultural countries. We have different minor ethnic groups. So expanding that concept into international, supporting multilateral and multicultural global governance order is quite a trivial extension. We recently heard a lot about a rule-based international order, but unfortunately, we haven't seen the rule books. We don't know what is the rule-based international order is. What we can see is that anything which is against American interests is not rule-based international order. The BRICS country, however, also call for a global governance reform, which is based on the United Nations Charter. So when we talk about rule-based international order, we have two choices here in terms of similar terminology. One is what the Americas and the Western media call rule-based international order. Unfortunately, nobody have ever seen the rule books in that rule-based international order. But on the other hand, just like the BRICS country, including Russia, China, talk about a reform of global governance based on UN Charter. With China's participation, BRICS influence in terms of global politics and economics is much enhanced. It has provided opportunities for cooperation on various fronts, including economic development, infrastructure investment, diplomatic efforts to address global challenges, etc. The influence of China within BRICS also lead to differences of opinion and priorities within the group, given the diversity of members' countries, political systems, and interests. Okay, so I will concentrate on one or two aspects of this. Of course, the first one is the economy, the New Development Bank. It's referred to as the BRICS Bank. Initially, it was established by pulling together the resources of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Given their relative difference in GDP, so Brazil, Russia, India contribute the same share. China contributed almost twice as one of them. And then South Africa is about half contribution as Brazil, Russia, or India, given South Africa's lower GDP. So basically, the BRICS Bank, I think, is 15 to 18% by Brazil, Russia, India, or 20%. China is a bit more, about 40%, and South Africa is the rest of about 10% or 5%, something like that. The exact percentage I can't remember, but China is the largest contribution to the BRICS Bank. At the moment, the New Development Bank headquarters is in Shanghai, and the president is the previous Brazil president. The capitalization is $100 billion. Each country contributed $10 billion to the initial capital, and it will be expanded. It is mainly a lending instrument for providing infrastructure and sustainable development. It provides loans to both public and private sector. The focus is on transportation, renewable energy, water supply, sanitation, urban development, among others. Its finance is based on local currency. Now, this is very important in the near future, as I think I will touch upon that a bit later on. It focuses on renewable finance or green finance, and it is also investing together with other global financial institutions, such as World Bank and other regional development banks, such as the Asia Development Bank, mainly supported by Japan. The NDB governance is based on a board of directors, and the management team, and each member country has a seat in the board of directors. The credit rating of NDB is pretty good. Operationally, they focus on projects in member countries, but it will be expanding its work into other countries. Part of the reason why the other countries want to join BRICS to become BRICS Plus is the assessment to this funding by NDB. Here is our Australian outlook about the BRICS Summit. The last BRICS Summit is in South Africa. Is on 22nd to 24th August in Johannesburg. The focus is on partnership for mutually accelerated growth, sustainable development, and inclusive multilateralism. Among them, all the heads come to this summit except Putin. Putin is not able to travel to South Africa. So we have China's President Xi Jinping, Modi from India, Brazil's Lulu, and South Africa's president all participated in this summit. We can identify about 6 outcomes. First of all is, of course, the BRICS expansion, which include, as we had explained, Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates. With these 6 new members, it represents about 30% of the world's economy, etc., etc. The second is important is during this summit, the leaders of BRICS declared their intention to reduce dependency on the US dollar and to increase the pace of de-dollarization in global commerce. At the moment, America's main global power is based on, I think, several pillars. One pillar is, of course, is military. United States has the largest expense in its military budget. US military budgets equals to the next, I think, 8 countries combined and more. So one of the power of US is dependent on its military. The second major power of United States, of course, is soft power, represented by the control of major Western media, including Hollywood. We know that when we talk about media, it's almost like we are talking about Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, etc. These are America soft power, of course, including the entertainment, Hollywood films, etc. So that is second pillar for its strength. The third pillar is technology. United States is one of the most technologically advanced country in the world. Is scientific research, is registration of patents, is still ranked number 2 at the moment, being overtaken by China just recently. So with a huge accumulated control of the intellectual property of many of the current technologies, United States remain a very strong technological countries. But all these, the 1, 2, 3 pillars, are all supported by the Americans' ability to print United States dollars. And these printed papers or numbers is able to almost get everything it wants. This is a huge privilege because you can basically grab any resource by printing money and then using that printed paper to grab the resource. So once if that ability to print money is decreased, then its ability to support a huge military, its ability to continue to support the global soft power, as well as the innovation, will subsequently decrease. So this reduction on the dependency on US dollars and de-dollarization will almost signal a decline of the global US power in almost every measurable sense. Of course, if then de-dollarization comes as a sudden change, then it has very significant impact on global economy. So the best approach at the moment is a slow approach, slowly de-dollarizations so that risk is reduced. And it has been a major outcome from the last BRICS summit. Of course, we know that the BRICS countries has now agreed that the trade among them will not depend on US dollars. It will depend on mutual currency. If it depends on mutual currency, then the next one is, will the BRICS country create a currency similar to Euro, which is a common currency for the European Union? Or they will depend on a basket of different currencies to do the trade? If it is the later, that means using a basket of currency, then the largest currency in that basket will be the renminbi because of the size of the Chinese economy. And therefore, even if renminbi will not become a world's trading currency, it will become a major trading currency among the BRICS members. We already know that Saudi Arabia and Russia is selling their oil to China using renminbi. The third outcome is the summit strongly expressed the leaders' intention that inclusive multilateralism and global governance could be achieved by promotion of efficient representation, effective democracy, and reform of international organizations. One reason why China, instead of increasing its share in, say, the World Bank or the International Monetary IMF, is because, first of all, United States unwilling to give up its veto power. And therefore, if China's share becomes larger than United States, inevitably, China will acquire that veto power. So because of that, China's participation in World Bank and IMF is very much limited. And because of that unequal setup, China is more interested in setting up a much more fairer and more equal organizations. So that is why China thinks a reform of the international organization is very much needed at the moment. So that's the last part. And China emphasized its right to govern, or its legitimacy of government, by being a responsive, effective government. That means this government is able to meet the citizens' need, rather from what we in the West commonly use as the legitimacy of government is of voting. China doesn't believe that. China says, oh, our government is legitimate because we address Chinese citizens' concern and is able to deliver what the Chinese government citizens wants. So efficient is very important. And second one is, of course, a democracy. In the West, we equate democracy with election-based government. But we all know that election-based governments have its drawbacks. For example, when a different party is in government, many of the work by the last government will be changed. One of the main things I complain a lot is, of course, the NDB, NBN, National Broadband Network. Initially, we are talking about optical fiber into the house. But when Labour government lost, then the coalition changed that. And we are now suffering from a very low internet speed, especially when compared to China. Another thing is about the so-called 5G network. From the Chinese point of view, what we call 5G is to them 4.5G. And we know that we have a trade war between the United States and China, started by the last US President Trump. And with the current President Biden, that trade war becomes technology war. And one of the outcome of that technology war is that America want to limit the growth of electronics companies in China, especially Huawei, and therefore it banned Huawei's involvement or sell its product in Western countries, including Australia here. Most people know Huawei by its handsets, but the main strength of Huawei is actually its infrastructure, the delivery of 5G towers, and of course the 5G towers. By excluding Huawei in building our 5G network is very slow. China represents about less than 20% of the world's population, but it has about 60% of 5G towers in the world, and most of them built by Huawei. And therefore, we understand the political implications there. The fourth important outcome is the members agree to extend their support for an African Continental Free Trade Agreement. That means African countries will have free trade among them, and BRICS will be also having a free trade agreement with African countries. That means goods between the BRICS countries and the African countries will be free of import tax. And the fifth strong focus is on agriculture and green economy, which I think we don't need to stress too much. Finally, the last major development occurred during the summit, where both India and China agreed to set up an effort to reduce the tensions at the disputed border between China and India. At the moment, China has almost resolved all the border issues with its connected land countries, except India. So if that last part is resolved, then China will be surrounded by countries, at least by land, with concrete boundaries. So here we have a very brief expose of BRICS. I will stop here and then you can ask me questions. So I stop the share. So if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and then I will try to answer it for you. Anyone? No? Okay, now next year, I will be still doing China Today 3 times per term, and again on Monday at the same time. But the dates will be available when Deep Dean set their timetable. So the timetable will be set by Deep Dean, and next first term in 2024 is in February, if I remember correctly. So I've already sent the dates to the coordinators in the other UVAs. Okay, any questions? No?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. In that case, we'll finish today. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.